kids, and welcome to your Wednesday WordNow Storytime with Miss Emily Ann. Excuse the half-painted wall, I did just move, but could I get some feedback on the color? Do we like the color? What are we thinking? I think I like it. I can't decide. But much more importantly than whether or not this is a good paint color for my office is God's call for Abraham. We got sheep, we got Abraham, we got a tent situation. This is Genesis 12 through 13. Abraham was a good man who trusted in God. God asked Abraham to leave his home, his country, and his family and go to another land. That's a scary thing to ask. He promised to bless him and make him the father of a great nation. He did, by the way. It's a spoiler, but he did. Well, if you're paying attention, God keeping his promises, not really a spoiler. You should pretty much count on that. Abraham had a good home with large flocks of sheep and cattle. But when God told him to leave, he took his wife Sarah, his nephew Lot, and his servants and set out for Canaan. Along the way, God appeared to Abraham and told him, "I will give this land to your children." Sarah and Abraham had been unable to have children. But Abraham was overjoyed at this news and built an altar to God and praised him. He was so happy. Later, Abraham took his family to Egypt, for there was a terrible famine. By the time he left Egypt to return to Canaan, he had become very wealthy and owned many animals. All right. This is more about Abraham and his family. And look, there's more sheep. We keep getting more sheep. All right. Again, I told you, lots of shepherds. Lots of shepherds in this part of the Bible. Important folk. All right, Genesis 13 through 14. Okay. Abraham and his nephew Lot had large flocks of cattle, sheep, and donkeys, so large that there wasn't enough grazing land for them all. You want about 1/3 of an acre per sheep, just as like a rule of thumb, because I'm sure you needed to know that. Okay. So large that there wasn't enough grazing land for them all, and their herdsmen began to fight. Abraham decided they would have to split up. He gave Lot the first choice of where to go, and Lot chose to leave Canaan and set off east to the fertile Jordan Valley. Abraham stayed in Canaan. After Lot had left, God called Abraham to him. "Look as far as you can. All the land that you can see I will give to you and your children forever. Your children shall be like the dust of the earth. There will be so many of them that no one will be able to count them." A 1/3 of an acre thing is for sheep, not cattle. Cattle rip up the grass by the root. Sheep, mow it. Kangaroos do the same thing. None of this is information you need, but it's fun information to have, right? I'm a little overexcited today. Okay. All right. Okay. So this is a ritual. It's a covenant. We're going to learn more about it. This is called God's Promise, and it's Genesis 15 through 17. Abraham and his wife were very old and hadn't had a child. But Abraham trusted in God. God told him that he would be a father and that he would have too many descendants to count, as many as the stars in the sky, and that the land would belong to them. Then God told him to prepare a sacrifice. That evening, God spoke to him again, telling him that his descendants would be slaves in a country not their own for 400 years, but that they would at last be free and would return to their own land, and those who had enslaved them would be punished. When the sun had set and darkness had fallen, a smoking fire pot with a blazing torch appeared and passed between the pieces of the sacrifice as a sign to Abraham from God. And that is that's how they used to make covenants or contracts, with a ritual like that. Okay. Alright, we're at about the 4-minute mark, so I should probably do the Hebrew word of the week. Are we ready? Hebrew word of the week. Okay. Today is actually 2 words because they go together. So, I think a lot of us have probably heard in church the Hebrew word for father, Abba. And all of the times in the Old Testament and the New when people cried out, Abba, Father, they were crying out to God the Father. But a word that we hear less often is the Hebrew word for mother, which is Ima. So we've got Abba, Father, and Ima, mother. And it actually sounds pretty similar to like mama. Ima. Ima, mother. Abba, father. They got mother and father. All right, let's read Abraham entertains angels, and then you guys can go about your day. And I can go about mine. All right, we've got, I like this picture. This is actually a really fun story. So we've got Abraham, I think, and they're right, okay, she's kind of squished in the crease, but there's Sarah, and then we've got these 3 visiting men. This is Genesis 18. All right. Not long after this, Abraham saw 3 strangers passing by. He hurried out to meet them and offered to bring water to wash their feet and food for them to eat while they rested in the shade of a nearby tree. Sarah baked some bread while Abraham brought his choicest meat for the men to eat and milk for them to drink. Then one of the men, who was really God, asked Abraham where his wife was. When Abraham replied that she was inside the tent, God told him that he would come back within a year and that Sarah would have given birth to a son. Sarah was listening in the tent and could not help laughing out loud, for she was far too old to have children. But God asked, "Why is Sarah laughing?" "Nothing is too hard for the Lord." Sure enough, 9 months later, Sarah gave birth to a baby boy, and she named him Isaac, which means he laughs. Alrighty, we're at 7 minutes, so I'm going to let you go. Have a wonderful week. I will see you on Sunday for service, and then I will see you next Wednesday for another story time.